Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is your
I believe that your destiny's already been decided. You just have to read the signs.
Photo News Fix. This fix is brought to you by Retro Photo in Reading, PA. Yeah, it's Reading, even though the GPS said reading, and it also does look like reading up on your screen.
Yeah, Reading Railroad.
Now, if you haven't heard, film is back, and it's better than ever.
No, it isn't.
Just like turntables and vinyl are also back. Now, if you're looking for vintage working Leicas, Nikons, Rolleiflexes, Hasselblads, Fuji 6.7s, or a Graflex 4.5 like I just purchased, Retro Photo is your place. They offer processing of 35mm color and black and white film, 110, 220, and have a full stock of Kodak, Fuji, and other film, and they also offer mail-in service for your film developing needs. Now, when I say full stock, I mean limited, since not a ton of film is actually made these days. Now, if for some reason you find yourself in Reading and want to check out their store, good luck, because they don't open till 11. 11! You know, hipsters. Hipsters don't move with urgency.
Nothing more pathetic than an aging hipster.
Yay, film. First up, do I have an action-packed week of stories just for you, starting with Nikon. Nikon has announced the long-awaited Z6 III. On the outside, the Z6 III takes its cues from the Nikon Z8, and on the inside, I think we have our answer as to what Nikon is going to do with all of that red tech, but more on that in just a minute. To put it bluntly, the Z6 III is shaped like a mini Nikon Z8, does away with the top LCD screen in favor of a new giant red record button and multiple quarter-20 threads. Has a 5-axis 3.2-inch flip out as well as up screen, which is similar to the Nikon Z9, incorporates a third function button on the front, and includes one CF Express B card slot and one SD card slot.
Too many slots.
And on the inside, that's where everything changes, and that's thanks to Nikon's purchase of Red, at least in some ways. The Z6 III houses an all-new 24.2 megapixel stack sensor that packs a huge punch for both stills as well as video. Now, thanks to the all-new Expeed 888 processor, Nikon was able to achieve a base ISO of 100 and a native max ISO of 51,200. The Z6 III can shoot up to 25 raw files per second for 3 full seconds, has up to 2 seconds of pre-capture to the CF Express card but not to the SD card, and brings, and I quote, the best autofocus a Nikon has ever seen. At least until they update the firmware and tell you that that's the best autofocus they've ever seen.
Can't be sure about that.
And the tagline is, get ready to capture the unimaginable. Now, I can only imagine what that means.
Christy.
In terms of video, the Z6 III shines thanks to the all-new red tech. With a flick of the switch, your Z6 turns into a full-blown cinema camera. Thanks to Red's tech and their new RRCL, or Red Raw Compressed Lossless format, you'll be shooting some of the best cinematic footage at 4K 120, 2K 240, and 1080 at up to 680 frames per second. And of course, your record times will vary depending on how many frames per second you are shooting. From the sounds of it, this camera might put a dent in some Z8 and Z9 sales, but it does come at a heftier price than you normally would think of for a Z6. The Z6 III body-only option is priced at $3,000, and the newly designed Pen 15 Double-D vertical grip will set you back another $400. Expensive? Yeah, a little bit, but don't forget about the D to Z trade-up program, where when you dump the D, Nikon helps you get the Z. Next up, for those Sony shooters waiting to see what an A1 II might look like, the wait is officially over. Introducing the Sony A1 II. And before you ask me if it has a 50 megapixel stacked global shutter sensor, the answer to that is no. But it does have a stacked 50 megapixel sensor that does incorporate a new processor called Bionz X3, like XXX. I guess in the all-new A1 II. The sensor is capable of almost global shutter readout speeds without being an actual global shutter sensor. That means there'll be no bowing even in the most demanding of ball sports. The A1 II offers up to 120 frames per second RAW in a new mode called Boost Dump Extreme, or BDE for short, but with a caveat.
Oh shit, what?
You'll need to spend $150 a year to unlock BDE. energy. Now I guess that's the price you pay for all of that energy. That means your shooting speed options out of the box are limited to 30, 60, and a max of 90 frames per second when you shoot RAW. Oh, and I probably should have mentioned this first, but this is the first Sony flagship to incorporate a built-in grip. Yep, they finally listened to the pros.
Like who?
The EVF is improved, the autofocus is the same as the A1 III, and they finally decided to go with dual CF Express B card slots.
Nut.
Right. They didn't. They stuck with CF Express A slots. In terms of video specs, it shoots oversampled 8K up to 60 frames per second RAW, 4K up to 240 frames per second, and 1080p up to 960 frames per second. That's a first in a full frame camera. So how much does it cost? Just under $7,000, with feature unlocks ranging from as little as $20 to unlock dual card recording and $499 to unlock all 20 additional features, including BDE. Damn! On one hand, I get it. The camera's more affordable, but shouldn't all those features just be included? Now, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Before we get to the last story, we will be talking about all of these news stories and more on the next FroKnowsPhoto Raw Talk podcast, which comes out on Friday. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts or at FroKnowsPhoto.com/podcast. And finally, after what seems to have been a more than 5-year wait, Canon has officially announced their flagship mirrorless camera, the R1. Isn't it pretty?
Better than anything I've ever seen.
The R1 has an all-new stacked 45 megapixel BSI sensor. No, it's not a global shutter sensor. The new sensor is capable of shooting with the electronic shutter at 60 frames per second in 14-bit RAW, 90 frames per second in 12-bit RAW, and 200 frames per second in small RAW with full autofocus for all. On top of that, Canon has added pre and post RAW recording for up to 1 second before you take the photo and 1 second after you release the shutter, so you're gonna be chewing up a lot of data. The R1 has dual CF Express B card slots, take that Sony A1 II, and a massive buffer to help make sure you never outrun the camera and always have room for pre and post capture. In terms of autofocus, the R1 has an all-new Digic 11 processor and is the first camera to utilize quad pixel multi-integrated live focus, or MILF for short. There's an upgraded 5.76 million EVF with a second generation eye control that nobody asked for, and new 5-axis flip out rotating 3.2-inch LCD screen. Now in terms of video, it will shoot 8K 60 for up to 30 minutes, 4K 240 for 60 minutes, unlimited 4K up to 120, all thanks to a new integrated body design with a passive liquid cooled center. I wonder how many licks it takes to get to the center of the R1. It's almost like Canon put the R3, the R5, the R6 Mark II into the lab, shot them with some gamma rays, and bam, turned it into the Hulk. Phone call. I wonder who that could be. Hello? Oh, Roberta L., I thought you were moved in Canon PR. Oh, you can confirm that that's exactly how it went down? You shot it with gamma rays? Thanks. Maybe they could shoot you with gamma rays and make you even better. Bye. Now, in terms of cost, it looks like Canon is going for Nikon and Sony's jugular. Now, I say that because a new R3 has dropped to $4,499, whereas you can get a refurb one directly from Canon for $4,000. Now, with that price reduction, Canon was able to price the R1 at $6,000. Take that again, Sony. And guess what? It includes all of the features at no extra cost. Take that again, Sony. Final bit of good news is the camera will be released globally on May 1st. The bad news is there will be a very limited number of cameras available at launch. We're talking like hundreds. Will you be ordering one? Let me know down below. And there you have it. That's your April Fool's Fix for 2024. Thank you very much for watching. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.